Hello, I am your host Andrew and welcome to my new paranormal podcast, Ghosts and That. This has been something I've wanted to do for a long time, so I thought, what the hell, let's do it. I struggled to come up with a name for the podcast for a while, and I thought, well, what's the podcast going to be about? Well, Ghosts and That. That was easy, wasn't it? So, again, welcome to Ghosts and That. The idea of this podcast is to get as many people to share their paranormal tales with me and the world. From poltergeists to full apparitions, from shadow figures to dreams, premonitions, doppelgangers to UFOs, time slips and cryptids, but nothing beats a good old haunting or haunted house. There might even be room for a spiritual attachment or two. So if you'd like to be part of this journey, please feel free to share your experiences with me and hopefully the world. I will share the contact details at the end of each episode and in the show notes. So here's a little about me and how I got interested and comfortably obsessed with the paranormal. So, hello again, I'm Andrew, and I'm from the northwest of England, well, Manchester to be exact. I was first interested in the paranormal when my mother told me a story of the ghost of Bluebell Hill, which is in Kent. I think all kids are in love with ghosts and ghost stories at some point in their lives. To the playground legends of maybe a haunted classroom, to the creepy house at the end of the street, all kids have loved a ghost story. But when a certain TV show came on telly, that's when my interest peaked. The first show I watched was Strange But True with Michael Aspel. This show scared the absolute shapoopy out of me and gave me many sleepless nights in the 90s. Every episode was terrifying beyond belief. If you want to check out the episodes, they're all on YouTube and very much worth a watch. After Strange But True, the daddy of all TV shows aired in 2002, Most Haunted. This was a whole new era of spooky programming. Say what you want about it, but I still love it to this day so much. I still watch all the episodes on YouTube regularly. In the early 2000s, there was nothing better than curling up on the sofa and watching Yvette and the team run around in the dark screaming on live TV for 3 days over Halloween. Perfect. Anyway, enough about Most Haunted because I could talk about that show forever and never get bored. In my life, I've had things happen to me I haven't really been able to explain. I've lived in many different places in the last 8 years. There was a building I lived in, on and off, in a town called Ashton-under-Lyne, which is in the borough of Tameside, Greater Manchester. These things were a bit odd to say the least, from a glass candle holder flying off a mantelpiece and smashing to footsteps walking around me while I sat alone in my flat, knowing I was the only living soul in the building. I actually also have an EVP recording of 2 or 3 loud knocks after I asked whether there was anybody present in this flat. Oh, also the shadow figure in the archway outside the building. There is much more and I will go into them in a future episode. They scared the absolute shapoopy out of me and put me on edge for a good few months. In fact, I'd like to go into detail of one of my experiences right now. I just started working as a welder and fabricator. I'd also been through a very big life change and I was starting again on my own. I'd got a job through a friend and I was really looking forward to starting. I had been training at college for 2 years previously in the evenings twice a week as well as working full time. The day I moved into this flat was a bitterly cold day in December 2017. I remember it was snowing and I had to move all my belongings into this flat in this awful weather. My mum and stepdad helped me move in. Once all my possessions had been moved in and I had arranged them in the flat, I walked over to the shop through the snow to buy the cheapest bottle of red wine I could find. I had no money at all, I was broke as a joke. I had made myself some tuna pasta, poured myself a glass of cheap red booze and settled in for a night of Netflix and try to keep warm. Let me explain the layout of the flat and the building quickly. These flats were above a newly refurbished bar in the town centre. As you enter the front door from the street, you walk up a steep staircase. It's lit by one of those sort of sensor activated lights. As you reach the top of the stairs, there is an entrance to the first flat straight in front of you. You turn back on yourself and immediately see the door to my flat and the door to the second floor flat on the right hand side. As you walk through my front door, you are greeted with high ceilings and huge windows. To your left is an old cast iron fireplace and the living area, and directly behind you that was the dining area and kitchen. Off that was a separate bedroom and bathroom. The temperature in this flat was sub-zero. This was obviously due to the fact it was the dark freezing depths of winter and the windows were single glazed. Ice would form on the inside of the windows over an inch thick that year. My electric blanket probably saved my life. So, I am settled on the sofa, Netflix on, cheap red wine in hand and wrapped tightly in a blanket. I'd only had about 2 glasses of wine. I knew I was the only person in the building at the time. The other occupants of the other 2 flats were at work and the bar wasn't even open for business at that point. The air was bitterly cold. I was sat on the sofa with my back towards the kitchen and dining area. Behind me was utter darkness, and thinking about it now, I suppose that sounds a little bit unsettling, but at the time it didn't really register as the utter cold was taking over my thoughts. I was sat engrossed in whatever I was watching. I heard a slight sound of what sounded like a creak of a floorboard just to the left of me near the front door. I thought maybe someone from the other flats had come home, but I didn't hear them walk up the stairs and didn't see the centre light come on and the light shine under the door. I didn't really think much of it, but it happened again, and again, and again. These creaks turned into full sequence footsteps. They headed towards me slowly, passing behind me, sending every hair on my body to stand on end. They came to a stop just at the right side of me. I was frozen, just staring forward. Out of nowhere, a blast of icy cold air rushed against the side of my face. Unnerved, I simply stood up, downed my glass of wine, turned the TV off and said out loud, "Nope." I headed to my bedroom, closing the door behind me. I swiftly jumped into bed and hid under the impenetrable force field which was the quilt. Everybody knows that under your quilt is the safest place in the world. I woke up in the morning to find my bedroom door open and my quilt on the floor. I don't sleepwalk at all and never have. This was a very strange event and the only time this has happened. On reflection, maybe it was somebody checking up on me, a relative, maybe an old occupant of the flat, I don't know. The building is very old though, 1800s I think. There have been many other things happen to other people in that building and I will go into that in another episode. This was my first experience in this flat, but not my last experience in this building. So, what's to come from this podcast? For me, this is a passion project and something that I've wanted to do for a long time. I do have interviews in the pipeline with people that are very willing to share their experiences. I have been talking to a couple of people for a while, but it's just finding the time when we're all available to sit down, have a brew and get it out there. I don't want to give much away because there are some stories I have been told that just blew my tiny little mind. These lesser known private experiences are what I live for. I don't think I will cover the more well-known cases because that's not what this podcast is about at the moment. I want to concentrate on the experiences of everyday people, stories that would never otherwise see the light of day. I have plans to go on paranormal investigations with a professional team or two and visit some supposedly haunted places with my daughter. Saying that, me and my kiddo have been to a few supposedly haunted places in the last year and I have the odd story to tell you. I want to record episodes about places that I visited and their history. There will be places you've heard about and some you probably haven't. I have a few other places in mind to visit and I may do a special episode or two when I get round to it, so keep your eyes open for them. So I have set up socials. You may or may not have seen my TikTok account where I sometimes make little horror shorts and do a little section of what I like to call paranormal palate cleansers, where I tell very short experience that I have been told in my day-to-day life by people at work or whatever. I tell them in just a normal style, no frills, and exactly how I've been told them. I may do the odd TikTok live if I go somewhere spooky or go on an investigation. I am present, as I say, on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram and YouTube, so just search Ghosts and that and you will find me and be able to follow and be a part of this journey. This podcast will be on Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts and everywhere else you get your spooky listening pleasures. So if you'd be so kind to give us a follow, comment on the episodes, and if you really want, please give me a 5-star rating and help this podcast grow and reach more people. I really don't want to put anything or any of my content behind a paywall. I know life's expensive and nobody needs more bills. Here, I want to build a community and a safe place for everyone. I also want there to be no judgment at all. Everyone's experience will be treated with the utmost respect and open-mindedness. I would love to collate your stories and experiences and bring them to life as best I can. Finally, you can send me your stories to ghostsandthat@gmail.com or contact me on my socials to get them ghostly balls rolling. All contact details and socials will be linked in the show notes. So, if you've managed to get this far, I'd like to say thank you from the bottom of my spooky swinging brick for listening to this first episode. I will aim for 1 episode a month, but as I get into the swing of things, I want to get it up to an episode a week. I will let you know one way or the other. Life's pretty busy, innit? Anyway, thank you, that's it. I'm done. I'm going to get off. And just remember, people, keep an eye out for them ghosts and that.